The only planet in our solar system that is most likely that we find a life on is Mars. So what is the fascination that we have with Mars? First, let's talk about the similarities Mars has with Earth. Mars takes a little more than 24 hours to spin on its axis. Even its axial tilt is very close to that of Earth. Even Mars has poles covered with ice, even though Mars's ice is mainly made up of a mixture of carbon dioxide and water. Even though the size of Mars is half the size of our Earth, it has the same total land area as that of Earth. It has the largest volcano and the deepest canyons in our solar system. It even had water in its past. It's quite an interesting place. So what started our fascination with this planet? Mars has been observed by humans since humanity existed. Greeks named this object Ares, the god of war, and Romans were the ones to name it Mars, their god of war. Let's just jump to 1877 when Giovanni Schiaparelli made maps of Mars. He made lines that were on the surface that he thought were natural landscape features of Mars. He gave them the name Canali, which translates to groove. However, when this word was translated into English, Canali became canal, a word which is totally different, which led to people believing that he saw intelligent beings who built canals over there. He did not think that the lines proved anything about life on Mars, though he remained open to that possibility. In 1906, the work by Schiaparelli and many others about Mars inspired a guy called Lowell, who published a book, Mars and Its Canals. This book was widely read by general public and goes into detail on Lowell's idea on the canals. He claims that the canals were built by Martians for the purpose of transporting water from the poles to the dry Martian plains. Even though in 1907, Alfred Russell, a well-known biologist, responded to this book with his own argument that Mars is completely uninhabitable. VALLES used measurements of light coming from Mars and argued that Mars has a surface temperature minus 35 degrees Fahrenheit. Lowell's claim that Mars had water was wrong. Even though their claims were wrong, but they fed artists and people around the world with excitement and hope to find life on another planet. There are many movies and sci-fi novels written on Mars and people living there. One of those books, called War of the Worlds, inspired a guy who would not only dream about visiting Mars, but invent a way to get there. Goddard is the inventor of liquid rockets and multiple staging in a rocket. These rockets now allow us to survey the landscape of Mars and even other planets. There have been dozens of missions to Mars. Every mission on Mars has found a hint of water that was present on the surface of Mars billions of years ago, but none have found life yet. On December 27, 1984, Allen Hills 84001. This rock is considered to be one of the oldest Martian meteorites, proposed to have crystallized from molten rock 4 billion years ago. Based on the chemical analysis, this thought to have been originated on Mars from the period when liquid water existed on Mars. So what is so special about this rock, other than it was on Mars 4 billion years ago and now it's on Earth? The rock became newsworthy when it was claimed to contain evidence of life from Mars. The electron microscope revealed a chain of structures in the meteorite fragment that some scientists interpreted as fossils of bacteria-like life form. This announcement caused controversy because many people interpreted that it was truly the first evidence of extraterrestrial life form from another planet. The scientific community ultimately rejected this hypothesis once all the features on the meteorite had been examined and explained without any requirement of life to be present on it. And the scientific and public attention caused due to this rock from Mars is a turning point in the history of the development of the branch astrobiology. If we talk about the current situation of Mars, Mars has no protective magnetosphere as Earth does. Scientists believe that Mars once had a core just like Earth, which created a magnetic field roughly 4.2 billion years ago, either by a massive impact from a large object or by rapid cooling of the core. The magnetosphere was gone. As a result, over the course of Mars' atmosphere was slowly stripped away by solar winds. Between the loss of its magnetic field and its atmosphere, the surface of Mars is exposed with high levels of radiation, and in addition to the regular exposure of cosmic rays and solar winds, occasionally receives lethal blasts of solar flares. That means it's a very bad place right now for life to be. Even if life exists right now on Mars, it would be present in the subsurface, away from the harsh condition on the surface. Present day life on Mars could be kilometers below the surface. So far, NASA has pursued follow the water strategy on Mars and not search for biosignatures for life directly since the Viking missions. Few days ago, there were two big announcements made. First, by the Curiosity rover, it had spotted organic molecules in the ancient red planet's rock and even identified seasonal cycle in the concentration of atmospheric methane. Here on Earth, 95% of methane in the air is emitted by microbes and other organisms. So it's a hope maybe there is still life on Mars that is emitting this methane, even though they have clarified that this discovery of organic molecules and methane can be produced by geological processes as well. And the second announcement was even bigger when astronomers found compelling evidence there is a huge reservoir of liquid water buried a mile under the ice near the south pole of Mars. Radar measurements were taken from European Space Agency's Mars Express orbiter. It's a 12-mile wide stretch of water. It's the first time that researchers have identified a stable body of liquid water on the red planet. There is a likelihood there still can be microbial life swimming in the water. As I told you before, the Curiosity rover and other rovers did not have their main goal set to find life on Mars, but the future rovers, that's NASA's Mars 2020 rover and European Space Agency's ExoMars rovers, will be better equipped for finding life on Mars. So keep an eye on them. And even keep an eye on Mars, because Mars right now is closest to Earth than it will be in some hundreds of years. One day, there will be canals on Mars that will be seen from Earth, but there won't be Martians making those canals. It will be us Earthlings making Mars our second home. It would be even better if we actually find life on Mars. Even though it's microbial, there will be so much more to learn about them. This video was inspired by a book that I read years ago, and I highly recommend you to read it. That's Carl Sagan's Cosmos. And on that note, thanks for watching. Stay curious, stay awesome.